it gives you a perspective when you see someone that close to you really ill and about pass. So when it was on me, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to control what I can control. And the things I can't control, I'm just going to turn over, to my doctors, to faith.
Welcome to the Focal Flip Podcast. Every week we take a deep dive into the mystery and stigma behind mental health and explore real-life stories of struggle and triumph. We aim to educate and encourage others as we bring together a diverse group of guests. From the streets to sanctuaries, classrooms to boardrooms, mental health does not discriminate, and neither do we. Prepare to laugh, prepare to cry, prepare to be changed. Let's get into it. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the Focal Flip Podcast. Season 2 is finally here. I've been fired up about it, and I have a very dear friend, a mentor actually, and I feel like be a mentor for the remaining years of my life. But this is my good friend Tim Hanner. Tim, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you out.
It's happy to be here.
All right, Season 2 viewers and listeners, here's what we got. So this is, it's weird calling him Tim because I've always called him Mr. Hanner. Okay. I first met Mr. Hanner when he became the principal at Pioneer Elementary School.
That was about 120 years ago, wasn't it?
Maybe 118-ish.
Yeah.
Ancient times.
Yeah.
You look great.
Thank you.
How do I look?
You look the same as when you used to come in.
So those were I loved Pioneer Elementary. I'd pop back in there and see him. And then actually our families, my whole family and Tim had a relationship from pretty much that moment on.
Yeah.
Tim is incredibly intelligent guy, very humble, so calm and easy to talk to. And he's always been an incredible leader. And so the last that I really remember of him professionally and personally, we would connect via social media or whatnot, but really was when you were in superintendent over Kenton County Schools. Mm-hmm. And I never heard a bad thing about you. I'm just going to be transparent. Now, I don't know. I'm sure there could be bad things or frustrated or whatnot. I never heard a bad thing about you. I mean, we had Dr. Cook. We've had all these different folks, and I'm plugged in the area, and I love people, and I study them. But seeing that with you were just this born leader to teach, help people be efficient, grow. And I just found that to be fascinating. And then after, I really didn't stay connected for a while. But you went through some life struggles, some problems with your health, stuff like that. So it's just cool to have you on here because I want to explore that. We just had a lunch the other day. We planned for an hour and we spent 3. And here we are literally the week after, ready to do this podcast. It was that inspiring to me. So I wanted to kind of tee that up for everybody. But as we go into our conversation today, we're really going to dive into mental health stuff, a lot of performance type stuff, some thinking type things, but we're really going to get into this transplant that Tim has had to have. Not one, but
2. Mm-hmm.
2 kidney transplants. And I had no idea. I know my family knew a little bit about it, and they followed it. Some of the stuff maybe on social or something. But after we sat together, I was just like, wow, your outlook on life is incredible. For me, when I lost my dad, I was telling my mom this, and when I lost my dad, ever since then, you're like looking at these father figures and you sit down and you talk with, and your soul just kind of tells you. I felt like I had that with you. It was like, man, this is really cool. We think similarly. I'm an entrepreneur now. You are as well. And I was just like, this is God. This is kind of a fate thing. And I didn't know about your own mental struggles that you had with your health problems.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I could call you Michael the way Trent does.
There's the intro.
But I'm going to call
Michael.
you Michael. I remember when you played for Scott and then Trent at Simon Kenton, and I got to know you through that some because I was very involved with those two guys and just really proud of what they've done with their careers. And the way that they worked with student athletes to be well-rounded people and tough on people, high expectations, but with good results. And I think you're living proof of that.
Thank you.
I see that.
Thank you. So, I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think that foundation comes from, I'm big on the experience that students get through school. And there are many different ways to prepare students for a life beyond high school. And whether that's through being on a dance team, whether that's through arts, whether that's through sports, whatever it is, what I learned was that you have to provide experiences for students for life beyond the classroom. And I was really proud of what Kenton County schools did with that. During the time I was there, we went from, Mike, when you were in elementary school, when I was principal at Pioneer, we had boosters basketball.
Yeah, Pioneer boosters.
And we had silence. There really wasn't much there. So what I learned from working with high school students when I was deputy superintendent under Dr. Cook and then superintendent, listening to students, listening to high school students by asking, what would it take for all students to be successful in your school? And then the second question, the follow-up, and this is where it's different, and what can you as students do to impact that success? And I had students that when I went to principal saying, I want to work with and meet and talk to students in your high school, and I can't meet with them all, but I want your magnet students. Who are the students that when you stand in the cafeteria, who are the students that other students gravitate towards? And what I heard, and then I did this with other schools throughout Northern Kentucky after I retired, what I heard was, but you don't really necessarily want those students because they won't be at the same behavior. Said, no, they have leadership potential. So when you bring that eclectic group of students together at Simon Kenton and at Dixie and at the Success Academy that we created and at Scott, and go meet with them and ask that first question, what I learned very quickly, which seems like a common sense thing, was it doesn't start when kids get to high school. You've got to create opportunities for students to be resilient. They have to feel like they belong to something. And they're going to find that, whether that's good or bad. So if you're providing positive opportunities in the communities around the schools, and then allowing the schools to come up with, by surveying their kids, and then I'm talking elementary, we went from having basically nothing in elementary schools to choir groups, the Clarks, Sherry Clark and Bill, but Sherry jumped all over that and started an all-star chorus group for middle schools. But we had acting clubs where, again, when we surveyed schools, in most of our schools, less than 30% of the kids were involved in meaningful activities beyond the classroom. Our elementary principals jumped all over this, and they loved it. And, again, surveyed the kids. That's how the archery team at Pioneer started.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
This is an amazing story.
So, and then we went to schools having 100% involvement, because if these 10 kids are over here and they're quiet and they could fall through the cracks, what can we get them engaged and involved in, from third grade up? What that did, Mike, was it drove the middle schools, because you've got kids coming out of elementary now.
Yeah.
And they're looking for, where are the clubs, where are the activities, do you have an acting group, or are you cutting kids on the basketball team? So we went to having intramural basketball in elementary schools from just boosters. Now the schools were involved and had ownership in that. And then we got our high school basketball coaches. We started our middle school football program as a result of that. In
really?
Yeah. And that
is amazing.
I'm giving credit to the students. But if you don't listen to them.
Yeah, they spoke up and you listened.
And then empower them, that we started programs where we had high school students going into elementary students once a week, doing one-to-one reading. In 3 years, by listening to those high school students, we had 100 students involved the first year. The second year, we had 250. My last year as superintendent, Mike, we had over 800 high school students into the elementary schools, either being a Shining Star Mentor program that Larry Tibbs and Michael Laughlin wrote, or one-to-one reading coaches. The celebration at the end of the year was so big, we had to have it out at Florence on Y'all's Field. And
wow.
So
how many years were you superintendent, Tim?
I was deputy superintendent for 7 years.
Okay.
Under Dr. Cook, and she gave me we talked about Mount Rushmores. I told her this.
Is she on there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Shout out Dr. Susan Cook.
And I put this to her. We had lunch yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And after I'd given her a card and so on, and afterwards she reached out and said, "Hey, thanks, great seeing you," and so on. And I told her that, and she's so humble. So you're too kind. But 7 years working with Susan, with Dr. Cook, and then I was superintendent for 5 years. And I say this, and I don't think people believe it. Wow. Had I not gotten ill, I had to have a kidney transplant. That people really, only a couple of board members and Susan knew about it, that my kidney was failing. My kidneys were failing actually when I applied to be superintendent.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was going to walk us into that story, but okay, you got, wow.
So I would still, I think had I not gotten sick, I would still be superintendent. I loved that job.
We're going to walk into that because you are literally laying this out. I'm a numbers timeline guy.
Yeah.
Number one, to go from year one at 100 and be at 800 is remarkable.
And Mike, the reason that happened?
Like from 100 to 250 alone, that spike alone is remarkable.
And you got to realize 50 of those kids graduated. 50 of those kids were seniors. So we were going to have 50 coming back who have been trained.
Golly, great job.
Here's a great, and
it's
again,
like that student ambassador program type.
Yes, the exciting part for this, and it started with about 12 students when I first became superintendent. And I learned that the gift of time that I had on Mondays of board meeting nights, I didn't want to go home. Board meeting starts at 7. People are leaving the office at 5, so I got a couple of hours there.
Yeah.
And I reached out to our principals. We already had a deputy superintendent and then a superintendent student advisory group. And I said, if each one of you can see if there are a few kids on the team, on each one of your advisory teams who would want to meet with me every month, I don't know what we'll do, but I want to do something with students above and beyond what we're doing. There were
collaboration with the students.
There were about 12, 14 students who came representing Success Academy, representing all the high schools. This kid named Coop Alano. Coop was a Scott student. And I remember saying, and I got to give a shout out to Sarah Callahan, who taught at Pioneer. Sarah was in.
I love Sarah. She knows that too.
Phenomenal. And she was in central office with me at that time. And I asked her to come with me and said, hey, let's do this together, Pioneer Days. And she knew at Pioneer I had my own little group of guys. It was all guys who, Pioneer's not a big school.
Nope.
And when I got there, and I had taught at Woodland Middle School and worked in bigger schools, I found out our discipline problems were with only a handful of students. So I started meeting with these students. They, again, back to lack of engagement, lack of being involved, and sometimes some home life issues and so on.
Some traumas in there.
Yeah. So I would have lunch with them every Wednesday, and they kept a check sheet on each other in class on their grades, homework, behavior, and they became their own support group. And they were called Handler's Heroes. So we got them shirts, and they helped me set up for any assembly would have these guys for working with me every week. The reward was when I need help, you guys are the ones that I'm going to call.
Wow.
So that kind of, and Sarah knew about that. So when we were going to do something district-wide like this and bring these students together, I said, I don't know. I just know there are high school students in our high schools that have had the opportunity, they would like to make a difference and give back.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go to nursing. I did the typical shout outs. Maybe we can go to nursing homes, or maybe we can do this or do that. And Coop, who was used to working with me, and said, Mr. Hanner, you talk about the 3 goals for the district all the time. Which of those goals can we impact the most? And I said, well, it starts with literacy. It starts with helping students learn how to read. He said, let us help you with that. And that turned into a program on a bigger scale called Hanner's Heroes. I regret the name. It wasn't my idea, but I regret the name. It wasn't Pioneer. It wasn't on the bigger scale. I was telling that story because after I left, it still had my brand on it, my name.
Yeah.
But the cool part about it, Mike, was when he said that, and when we started brainstorming, I said, but here's where each of you have to go back into your high school and sell this, that you're going to be trained to be one-to-one reading coaches. Do you think you have enough? And they went, oh, yeah, we can go out and find people who'd want to do that. In Kenton County, we had a staggered start. High school students got out an hour before the elementary. So here was one of the ground rules right up front. I said, I want this to be 100% empowered by you all. If you ever hear me saying, I think we should do this, or I know what we need to do, we need to do that, and you don't like it, you can call timeout on me. Back to my coaching days. You can call timeout.
Okay, I'm going to segue into that too, man.
So anyway, the first meeting after that, there were about 100 kids who showed up. And and I went through it with them, we all got trained to be one-to-one reading coaches. And this is about in December.
Okay.
So 50 went through the training to be one-to-one reading coaches, and the other 50, Larry and Michael, jumped all over this, got trained to be Shining Star mentors.
Shining Stars, yeah.
The ground rules that they helped me set was the high school kids got to choose the elementaries that they went into. My goal was to make sure we had the whole district blanketed. And for Pioneer, that was a little tougher, I would have thought, but it wasn't. Because the kids who at Simon Kenton went to Pioneer, they wanted to go back to Pioneer.
Yeah.
So, and the kids who went to White's Tower wanted to go back to White's Tower. That was one ground rule they set. The other one was that it needs to be celebrated as we do this. And we'll figure that out later.
Celebrate your wins.
Yeah. So after a couple months, we knew we were on to something. And the way it worked, everyone who went through the training, now that Monday meeting once a month, they all gathered at central office. And we'd have almost like a pep rally. They would come in, and the purpose was for them to ask questions. I'm struggling with this. I can't get my guy to do X. I'm trying all the tricks. And we had reading specialists there to work with the kids, the high school students.
Wow.
And then the mental health part, it was this child opened up immediately and started talking. I don't know what I should say. And we had school psychologists there to work with them. The students, though, did the warm-up. We did warm-up activities. My job was just to kind of keep it going and listen.
Yeah.
And about 3 months into it, I said, I think we got something going here. And the students were so positive and so solutions-based on how to make it bigger and grow it, because they're saying now,
oh, you really did empower them.
I've got some other students who want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
boom, let that ball roll.
Yeah. So I said, I have an idea. At the end of the year, we can bring everyone to a board meeting and we'll celebrate you. And I got timeout called. There were a bunch of hands went in the air. I said, what do you think? And they said, that's your idea. We've been to board meetings. Many of us have been there. They're boring. I said, okay, all right, fair enough.
They called timeout on you too. Good for them.
Yeah.
Let's
and
go.
I said, so
exactly what you told them to do.
What would you do? They said, number one, we've been meeting. We've been talking about it because about half of us are graduating. If you want to get other high school students excited about this, they have to see us do it. And the best way is if they see how we interact with our kids we coach. And what that turned into, Mike, was Dixie Heights, working with their art teacher, Terry Schatzman, developed a logo, an H2, and they said, we want shirts. So I went to a sponsor. I didn't want to use any tax dollars on this.
What year? Wait, what year was this? You didn't want to come?
Gosh, this would have been about 2000. 2008, 9.
Okay.
Yeah, 2008. That's when it launched.
Wow.
2008.
Okay, T-shirts.
Yeah. So T-shirts, they said we want black T-shirts. We want the H2 on the front, the logo we designed, and that's it. I said, well, if I get a sponsor, we may have to put a sponsor on the back. And they said, fair enough. So anyway, and the other thing they said was, that's one. And two, instead of coming to your board meeting, will you bus our kids out to our high schools? I said, why? They said, number one, our kids talk all the time. They want to see where we go to school. We're always in their schools. And number two, if we plan activities with these kids, people are going to say, I want in on that next year. And it worked, Michael. The second year, when we went out to put the word out, kids signed up. I say I went 250. We did the same thing at the end of the year. Our group was big enough that we could still house it. By the third year, you got over 800 high school students involved in
Filling
this.
the schools up. Wow.
So we had to have separate meetings out at each of the high schools.
It would excite elementary school kids.
Oh, my
day
gosh.
long.
And the cool part, years later, I've met students who said not only was I coached by a Hanner's Hero, but then I became one when I went to high school. And I'm gone. I'd retired by then. So it's things like that I think in the education world, the more, it's not enough to give students a voice. You hear about student voice all the time, which I'm a huge advocate of student voice, but I'm bigger on student empowerment. How can we then turn it back when you say, what would it take for all students to be successful? And if they've never been a teacher, these are high school students. Mm-hmm. They've just had the experience. But the challenge was, how do you engage all your colleagues in this school? And that's where the Hanner's Heroes came from.
That's amazing.
So anyway.
That's what it was with building character. I mean, you're actually coaching and building character. And I'm still trying to absorb that story. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Thanks.
Thanks. It's
one of the highlights in my career.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, all I did was provide an opportunity.
Yeah.
It was the power, and I still believe this is more true today than ever, and more needed than ever, Mike.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Media, because of the pressures from even when you were in school, and it's a whole different world than when we rode horses to school, buggies when I was in school. So.
I agree with you so much. Yeah. I'm a big believer in it. It's what I do with my programs and my coaching models.
I know that.
So let me tell the viewers here. So Tim, I just learned this in our meeting the other day, which was the coolest thing ever. You guys know I love Coach Humphrey. You guys know I love Coach Steiner, my high school basketball coaches. Just love the guys to death. They coached me hard, loved me harder, really let me handle adversity like I told a lot of folks. When basketball was ripped from me was really when things started to slip in my life. So, when you get older and you mature, you look back at these people and you start to study like how they led you, why I was attracted and not, they didn't promote themselves. I was more attracted to it, And so the coolest thing ever, I still keep in touch with Coach Humphrey, still clearly keep in touch with Steiner. But Tim and I had a breakfast, lunch type thing. And he goes, you do know that I was from there as well. And you do know I coached them, Coach Scott. And I go, what? I sit back like, man, I have looked up to Tim for a while, and my family, like I said, loves him. And I'm literally going, and I just have all these flashbacks of like, did Humphrey get his coaching style from Tim? Gotta be. And the more we sat there and we kept talking, the more I realized how I would coach today, if it was basketball, how Humphrey coached, how Trent. It is Tim Hanner. It's so your method, but I didn't necessarily either. I didn't know or I didn't remember that you had coached them.
Yeah.
And so as you're sitting here telling me about this, and I talk a lot about teaching and coaching. There's something about a coach that they're just born for that. I feel like you just have this knack and this teach and this love to coach, but you literally took a team building coaching model into that and got into the trenches with them it's incredible because it is like an ambassadorship. So my question is like, what makes you think that way when you first come in and you're like, all right, I'm observing this. What's the first thing that you like look at? You've been a coach. You've coached basketball forever. You coached my mentors. You know, you come in, you build a team. Okay. You're focused towards one goal, right?
Yeah.
What do you do when you look in? Like, I'm trying to think of how to word this. How do you identify that need?
Yeah. It really started with, and first of all, I was blessed to have a variety of coaches coming through when I was a student at Russell High School. And I remember Scott, I told you this, I remember Scott when he was a little kid running around his house with a wiffle ball bat all the time, just beating on people.
Baseball fella.
And I coached Scott in baseball and basketball. I was a head baseball coach and I was assistant basketball coach with a legendary coach who was big on getting into the psyche of his players and motivating. And if you had Scott on and he told Marv Meredith stories, when you're a kid, you're a teenager, and you hear Marv's stories over and over, and you think, I heard this 2 months ago. Why are you telling it again? It's because he dug deep and implanted seeds within his players. He knew what he was doing. He was wicked smart. He also lived a very compass-centered life, Marv did. And I think, again, I played for him, then I came back and coached with him. My coaching style was very different than Marv's. I also played for some really strict, tough coaches. A guy named John Kokas, who was wicked smart in basketball. I had as my freshman basketball coach, and we were running UCLA gold and UCLA blue presses, and having, and I'm not exaggerating, a 7-hour practice on a Thanksgiving day.
What?
Yeah, and he was and he took a really bad team. We were terrible and made us competitive, and it wasn't for everybody. We had some guys quit that year.
Oh, I bet.
So anyway,
I bet
and that's
so.
extreme.
It
But
takes
he
what
was,
it takes.
and I learned so much about the sport from him. So fast forward to my coaching, again, was blessed to work with Marv. And in baseball, and this is what's funny, there's a whole group of guys right now in a golf tournament, and some of them reached out, a golf outing, about 16 of them. And one of them reached out and said, hey, we're all going to be meeting, and I'm sure there are going to be some Coach Anders stories. I said, well, I don't need to hear them.
I do.
Because I was, when I was hired, Mike, I was 21, and I was given the opportunity through the Russell Independent School District to write their first Gifted and Talented program, to develop practical arts program. I received opportunities from that school district that you normally don't get, and part of it's because I'd gone there probably, and they knew who I was. But part of it was they just needed somebody to do it, and they entrusted it to me. And it could have been a total flop, and I might have been out of education in 2 years, or I could learn, make mistakes, and it was okay to make a mistake as long as you make it better. So, and then my second year, I took over the baseball program at age 22. When those guys, I talk to them now, Scott, T.J. Maynard, Trent didn't play for me. He was in Lawrence County, one of the ones we used to have to drive up 23 to go play. And but I got to know Trent through Scott and actually talked to him on the phone before they decided to hire him and come and be with Scott. I think those opportunities early on, I made a lot of mistakes early. If I were coaching today, I coached baseball like a basketball coach, which isn't a good thing. I was intense.
How do you do that?
Well, when the players come off the field and somebody made an error, you probably could hear me in the stands, huddled the guys around and like you'd do in a basketball huddle.
Chew them up. Chew them out.
So
I get it.
And then hug on them after the game, and everybody knew, And it was as much fun in that first 6 years of teaching and coaching that I had in education. And left education for a couple of years and lost, touch with some of the guys. And when I came back into Kenton County, I was hired at Woodland and loved my experience at Woodland. My gosh, the kids there needed me, needed us more. And this sounds bad, but it's true. I'm talking about holistically.
Yeah.
than the kids at Russell. The kids at Russell were at that time more from a more affluent area, and Woodland was a real mix of kids. And there were a lot of latchkey kids who were going home with nothing to do. And so we created programs when I was at Woodland for more after-school programs and so on. And our principal there really empowered the teachers in a way I'd never been led before, to turn over the thinking. That influenced me a lot. Don Deller and then Gary Jackson were the principals there who did that. That influenced me as an administrator as much as anything about how you treat kids. I'm not sure I answered your question.
No, actually you did it. I couldn't figure out how to word it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, you brought that around really well, because it's like, you're a teacher, you became a coach. Where does that necessarily come from? That question was, when you're in that, how do I identify that need? So what we were getting at is that, his coaching experience and models he put into the education program as superintendent, deputy superintendent as well. But the common theme that I'm getting from you is excellent listener, and you've been empowered from the get-go.
I've incredible opportunities. Been very blessed.
So they empowered you right from the rip, and you're a big believer in that
am.
because you've seen the results now from it.
Yeah, and having the opportunity, like back to Coach Meredith for a minute, and I remember him telling me early on, and he pulled me in quick. I was 8th grade basketball coach, and he pulled me up to work with varsity, and then the next year I was coaching with him. I remember him saying, I've had a whole lot of assistants go through my program. And he's one of the winningest basketball coaches in the history of Kentucky. He said, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told all of them, that this is my butt's on the line. However, I want you to work. I want you to feel free, come and talk to me, and I want you to learn how I do things. Because someday, and he said, whether it's in coaching, in teaching, or he said, I can see you going into administration someday. Learn all the good in what I do. And things that you would do different, you can give me that feedback, but what you would do differently, make that your own for when you get the opportunity someday. I have used that with assistant principals, with assistant superintendents, with people. I think my team, fast forwarding to central office in Kenton County, when I had a team around the table, my cabinet, I think they would describe me as pretty intense because I'm results driven. I want the best. And I think that came out of my early teaching days and coaching. And that carried over into, so again, that's the reason I say, had I not gotten ill, I would probably still be doing it.
And let's talk about that. So Tim ended up kind of having an early retirement. And as he had mentioned earlier in our conversation, he had actually known about what he's about to tell you about 5 years before you retired. So literally the first year is your
going into it.
Okay, so let's with Focal Flip, we focus on mental health. We really dive and dig deep into the trenches and traumas and health and all these things, and how it doesn't discriminate. It affects us all, no matter what, in so many different ways. But Tim has a very remarkable story that I'm excited for you to share. I'm grateful that you're here today. So
thanks.
Let's hear, take us from year one soup, maybe.
It was going into Dr. Cook's last year. And ironically, my wife, who had been healthy, we both, had been healthy our whole lives. And then she was ill for about 6 months. She had to have a hysterectomy, and it was botched, and she almost died. Oof. And that was the most helpless feeling. And during that time, I was working to lose weight and get in shape, and going into the superintendency for the application process, the fall of that year, and Dr. Cook was aware of this, how sick she had become. Then when we knew, during that time, I literally prayed, take this off her, give me anything.
Yeah, you're ready. You're like, let's go.
Yeah, give it to me
It's time to launch. Yeah.
and just let her be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, she, best person I know, period. So, anyway.
I love that.
So, about December of that year, we knew that she was going to be okay and was going to be able to return back to work. And I was having tremendous headaches. And I talked to my doctor and said, and he said, it's probably stress. We know what Marlene's been through. And he said, but let's order some blood work. Order blood work, sitting with him. And he's a friend. I've been to him since we'd moved here. And while we're waiting on the blood work, we're just chatting about the kids and life. And so he gets the blood work. And he said, I'm ruling out the most serious things first, just to make sure. As soon as he got it, or on the top of it, he said, Tim, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think your kidneys are failing. I was like, what? He said, yeah, it's pretty evident. That's why your blood pressure's sky high. That's why. He says, is there any history? And we went through all that. I was in shock. Went to, had a biopsy the following week, and it was, confirmed.
Were you having pain or anything? Like
Just the headaches.
just the headaches?
And was in great shape. I had lost a bunch of weight. But then, Mike, I went beyond trying to lose and kept losing. And I could feel I was losing muscle mass, and it was like I knew something was off.
Okay.
So the nephrologist I went and saw, the fear was that it was an autoimmune disease that was attacking not only the kidneys, but my liver was throwing off weird numbers, pancreas throwing off weird numbers, because they immediately put me on some meds. So there was about a month period. And I said, so that I didn't know. So what was going on? And he said, this is going to sound weird to you. He got emotional to Marlene when he said this to me. He said, you need to pray that it's kidney disease, because if it's this other thing, there's really nothing we can do. So went to Mayo Clinic for a second opinion during that time. This is all, again, during the interview application process for superintendency.
Oh, my goodness.
So he then realized, and I had to have a liver biopsy and so on to find out, and the liver checked out fine. So when I found out that it was kidney disease, and I mean this sincerely, and I remembered my prayers. I was like, all right, just tell me what I need to do. And he said, if it's the disease we think it is, there's no cure, and you'll end up having to have a transplant. So I went back to Dr. Cook and said, I don't think I can do this. And she's tenacious. She said, what are your options? I said, well, they said it'd be a couple years. She said, then you're going to do it. You need to apply for this and do it. And I said, well, let me go talk to Marlene. I said, there could be a option B. And she said, there is no option B. You've got to apply. You've got to do this. There's a plan. We're going to work that plan, and you're going to do this. And she knew she couldn't. It was up to the board. She couldn't promise it, but she had been teaming me up this for 7 years, training me and working with me. So talked to her, went and talked to my doctor. And my doctor said, we may be able to get more than 2 years, but this is why I want you to go to Mayo. We're going to put you on heavy steroids for a year, a cancer drug for a year. It's not going to be fun, but it can prolong the life of your kidneys. And my goal was to make it to retirement age in case something catastrophic happened to me. My wife and kids and so on at that time would be okay, be taken care of, because I needed 5 years to get to retirement. And that's what we did. I went through the interview process. That first year, I was driving, I think I told you this when we met, I was driving my cabinet team crazy because I was doing like 80 milligrams of prednisone a day, getting about 2 hours sleep up in the middle of the night with all these great ideas.
Did the whole cabinet know, or just only a few people?
No one in cabinet.
So they just thought that was probably you being intense?
And yes. So the only people who knew were Carl Wick on a board chair and Karen Collins, vice chair.
Yeah, okay.
And Karen's still going at it today on the board. And Carl just stepped down. Just good,
really
good salt of the earth, good people, Southern Kenton County folks.
That's right.
Great leaders, and how they've dedicated their life to Kenton County, the kids at Kenton County schools. So
shout out to Karen too. I saw her when we were voting last year.
She's again. So she echoed Susan and said, no. And I wanted them to know going into the interview process and then afterwards. So they knew, but I didn't announce it to anybody else until the year I had to retire, because the 5th year, my kidney function had dropped about 18%. And people ask, was there pain? There really was. It's fatigue. Because what happens is
it's kind of drying you out.
It's that, and you're losing, and it can, when it drops below 10%, it affects you mentally sometimes. I mean, you lose train of thought. You were talking and you're bouncing. It's called kidney brain. But at 18%, the number one side effect was fatigue, and I wasn't used to that. I was used to going full throttle,
100 mile an hour,
and then I was even getting sleepy in meetings, and and my doctor said, you wanted 5 years, we got you 5 years, buddy, it's time. You either take a leave of absence or you work right up to it and you get someone. He said, but if you can do something else in life, you got options. So I came back, talked to my wife, and decided to retire. I was 51, I think, at that time when I made the decision, retired at 52.
Wow. So you had this kidney disease at 45, 46 years old.
Yeah, that's when I was diagnosed. My biggest thing, Mike, was, is it hereditary?
Yeah, sure.
Because
I would have done the same.
That was what I pushed for more than anything. It turns out it was misdiagnosed. I've had 7 biopsies over the year, plural. And it was misdiagnosed, and by no one's fault. It was this anomaly. I went back to Mayo a second time. They thought it was a disease called focal sclerosis, and what that means is the filters in the kidneys are scarred, and they can no longer get out the impurities. That's why you feel bad. Yep. And the 7th biopsy showed a different disease that's still rare but more common. And the good news is there's a treatment for it. I'm on 5 milligrams of prednisone a day, enough that it does what it's supposed to, but without making me crazy.
Wow. Yeah, you don't appear to be crazy at all. You're doing fantastic. This is just a remarkable story. I mean, because I think about, okay, at that moment, that's incredibly traumatic, when you know that you've got something that is life-threatening no matter what doesn't matter with the number of years or whatever.
Right.
But then a lot of time that's where people start to isolate. They start doing it right here in their mind, and they'll run the other way.
I've seen that, because my mantra early on, and again, I give my younger sister credit, my older sister credit, my family. Mm-hmm. The one person who we kept in the dark about this was my mom, who lived in Florida. And we didn't tell her until we had to, until I retired, until I was going into transplant.
You're a worrier, man.
Well, and she had congestive heart failure. That's the last thing we wanted to do was, but everyone else, I was surrounded by a whole lot of people lifting me. Then when I announced it, my cabinet, my friends, but no matter what, at the end of the day, it's you and the decisions you make. And I'm not going to lie, there were times I never once, back up a little bit, I never once said, why me? And I honestly think that goes back to what I prayed for. So it gives you a perspective when you see someone that close to you really ill and about to pass. So when it was on me, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to control what I can control. And the things I can't control, I'm just going to turn over, to my doctors, to faith. And, but that doesn't mean there weren't,
tough times.
At my hardest, and this is, I had a resolve when I retired to keep going, even though I knew I didn't have the energy. And that's when we started NaviGo College and Career Prep Services, when I was on dialysis and getting all that, with good friends, Jimmy Cutter and Ken Weiniger and Todd Dykes and Jeremy Dieters, who was the board attorney, and Yaz Khan and other people, we lifted that company, and the idea I told you the other day came from high school kids. It's what I felt was still left undone. Too many kids weren't prepared for life beyond high school. So we start this nonprofit, 2 years of R&D. The transplant happened in 2013, and my older sister was the donor. And by the time it happened, was probably physically, health-wise, by far my lowest, when almost died several times that toward the end of that first year when I was on dialysis. My body actually was rejecting dialysis. It was bad. I can look back now and know that. The transplant was delayed a year because by going out and being in schools and on the drugs I was on, I was immune suppressed. So I was picking up any and everything, and picked up tuberculosis that year going into the transplant. Yeah. It was the med, I never felt anything from it, but the meds were just knocking me out. They wiped me out. That honestly, though, wasn't the low point. The low point, because I was thankful. I immediately after that transplant felt better.
From your older sister.
Yeah, Rebecca, who's,
Yeah.
So
God rest her soul.
No, she's a living donor.
She's a living donor.
Yeah, she's alive and doing well and in great health. Yeah. She was a living donor for me. My brother was to be, and they rejected him because he had a high blood pressure spike, and he got rejected. Then my older sister stepped up and said, I want to do it. My younger sister raised her hand too. So my older sister donates the kidney within 2 years, and now we're back at it, going with NaviGo. We've got pilots going in Lexington, Ludlow. It's cranking. And I'm big on, like you're talking about, data. And one of the best things that's happened in the medical community, because I remember the time before and now, is MyChart. I was able now to see my blood work right away. I learned what those numbers meant. My creatinine was high and what my phosphorus levels were and all that. Control what you can control. I had my meds all charted out. My alarm goes off 4 times a day, back then 5 times a day, when to take my meds. Because I asked the question, Mike, to Sandy at Kidney and Hypertension Center, who was phenomenal to me, and Dr. Kramer. I said, what's the number one reason people reject? And I said, is it physical? They do such an incredible job making sure you got the right match, that you're as healthy as you can be going in, that person who's donating is taken care of. I was blown away by the answer.
And what causes the rejection?
Number one is people don't take their meds like they're supposed to. Number 2 is people don't drink the water that you're supposed to. That's why I carry one everywhere I go. And I thought, those are controllable. And they said, but it's reality that some people don't have the resolve. By the time they get the transplant and go through it, they're worn out. And they don't have a system in place. It's why I try to help people with control what you can control, put an alarm on your phone, blah, blah, blah.
Accountabilities.
So because transplant's not a cure, it's a treatment. And that's what Sandy told me, because I was complaining one time about I became diabetic as a result because my pancreas gave out, and I was moaning about it. She said, stop.
First transplant?
After the first transplant. She said, stop. You didn't get cured. You got a treatment. Ooh, okay.
Change your perspective.
Thank you.
Focal flip, you guys.
It did. It's
flip your
exactly
perspective
right.
For sure right there.
And she was, you're doing everything you can do. The rest of it's your body chemistry. And so the low point, though, was about 2.5 years after the transplant, when they told me you're losing your new kidney. And I went on about a 2-month period of, screw it. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm going to drink what I want to drink. I put on weight. I was depressed because I thought,
you're probably thinking, what's the point?
It was one of these that, unfortunately, I knew the disease I had could come back, and it does in most people. I met a guy when I was going through and first diagnosed in an online forum who said, I've had 7 transplants starting when I was a kid. And he was in his 70s then. And he said, and I said, how do you deal with that? And he said, I deal with it because it keeps me alive. And whoa. So he said, I hope you don't have that because we had different disease. What turns out years later, we had the same disease. He had IgA too, like I now know I have. So
that's what yours is called?
Yeah, that's the initials, IgA, and I always forget what it stands for. I remember the FGS, which was focal sclerosis. We always doubted that and thought it was weird, and it's one of the reasons they sent me because it's usually found in African males. And the person I went to in 2018 is one of the leading experts in the world on it, and she said, I knew you didn't have it. She said, it masked itself as this disease, but here's what it really is. And she said, that's the good news, because after your next transplant, we'll put you on prednisone, 5 milligrams a day, and it's shown, we don't know why, but it's shown to keep IgA at bay longer. So, so I went from, my wife and I finally, I think she's the one that sat down and said, dude, you're not yourself.
So 2 months? Was it 2 months after
2 to 3 months.
You just kind of started to really slip in your
I
depression.
was mentally and was cranky, was, again, eating, because I'm pretty disciplined on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was if it's going to come back, I'm going to lose this kidney anyway. I'm just going to live for a while.
Yeah, screw it. That's what it is. Wow.
I switched doctors at that time. I went back to Dr. Kramer, and nothing against the other guy I was working with, but Kramer knew me.
Yeah. And
he probably helped me mentally and emotionally as much as physically. He and my wife. And the biggest thing, Mike, I dreaded telling my sister that this precious gift you gave me, I'm going to lose. Because I felt like, and I think that grounded me too. It was the guilt, of what you go through. Even when someone donates to you, I dealt with, gosh, what if something happens to them? I don't think I could bear that. So my team.
I never thought about that before.
Oh, yeah.
Probably my whole life.
My team at Christ Hospital said, we've got people working with your donor. We've got people working with Rebecca, your sister. And then the second transplant, what we get into here in a minute, they did the same thing. They surrounded Alyssa and lifted her and made sure 100% she knew what she was, going into. And so anyway, I came out of that, started really thinking more about longer term. I think the other thing that happened, I had 2 grandsons at that time, and during that time, our granddaughter was born. She was a baby. That's it gives you a whole new, will to live longer and whatever it takes. So I can't say that it lasted long, but I dealt with it. And and it was as quickly as it hit, it was gradual coming out of it. I needed a plan. What's the plan?
Yeah, so, I understand that part too. Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're coming out of it as far as the depression.
Yes.
But you still got a bad kidney.
Still got a bad kidney that we knew was failing.
So it's failing. So.
Well, I had a good kidney. The disease took over that kidney and made it bad.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So Dr. Kramer was really helping you. Dr. Kramer and your wife were really helping with your mental health as you were going through the anger, sadness, resentments, So what happens next? You're starting to get a positive spirit again. You're starting to have a positive outlook again. You're getting maybe a little energy back. You're starting to eat better or no?
Well, I started eating better.
Yeah.
I knew that I did have my old doctor say, sometimes you just got to move away from the table, man.
Yeah.
Because I was complaining about the weight I'd gained. He said,
I'm depressed, Doc.
It's on you.
Pretty depressed here.
So he kind of looked me. I was pissed when he did
that. I was like,
took that personally. He's like, okay, I know I've gained weight. But I think it's the drug, and it wasn't the drugs that you're eating too much.
It's the prednisone, man. It's the steroids. Steroids are making me inflate.
That was true earlier, but anyway, a new resolve. And at that time, this is a God thing. I had a friend of mine who ran a nonprofit named Rick Hewlefeld. He ran Children Inc. he reached out and said, I'm really intrigued. By that time, also NaviGo had taken off. We were thriving. Still had a long way to go. He approached me and said, and he didn't know I was sick. I mean, he knew I'd had the transplant, but he didn't know that my new kidney was failing. And he approached me and said, would you ever consider merging our nonprofits? I was like, why do you ask me? He said, I love what you're doing. He said, but we take care of from prenatal through school entrance. We could do a cradle to career nonprofit together. So I went back to my board, to Jeremy and Jimmy and Todd and Ken Weininger, and said, and we brought on Larry Tibbs at that time too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Larry Tibbs.
The Larry Tibbs, that's what I was going to say. Larry
and
Tibbs.
he wrote the curriculum. He was also, I mean, just such a spiritual support. And I want to get to that in a minute. You need him on here sometime.
Hey, bring him on.
My gosh.
Anybody you refer,
My
they
goodness.
can welcome to the family.
Just an example of Larry, and while I'm talking about him, and I think you've seen his post and his little videos he does on our site we started. I didn't know he was doing this until my mom told me, and I had shared the story with Larry. He said, I don't know if he asked for her address, but he would send her cards the whole time she was sick. Wow. Yeah. And he would send them to me. Still does to this day. I got one 2 weeks ago. He learned that from his dad, the power of handwritten messages. And it's usually something inspirational on a card that but it's the message, what he writes inside. So anyway, Larry came on to write the curriculum. I was worried, and I'd brought on, at that time, I had hired Stephanie Layton to work with us and had a small but good team. We had all these coaches we hired to be NaviGo coaches. So I wanted to make sure they were taken care of because I knew I was losing my kidney, and I knew that this is the right move to merge. So the deal was, as long as my health would hold, I would stay with them 2 years through the transition and through the merger. And it turned out to be just such a blessing. Everyone stayed employed, and we actually hired a couple more. We brought on Jenny Lamoth, Lorraine Dawson, Lorraine O'Moore. Rick was phenomenal. Then Shannon Starkey Taylor, who took his place. And then it allowed me, at the end of 2 years, that I was worn out, and I knew I was facing transplant. That was in July of 2018 or 19. But then it came time to look for a new donor. And
so all your fatigue and stuff was setting back in again.
Yeah.
How about the headaches?
We were
Manageable?
controlling the blood pressure by that time, but I was it's when you're in last stages of kidney failure, all you want to do is sleep, and when you wake up, you're tired. There's no satisfying sleep. And so there are a lot of misconceptions about it, about, the pain. It's not as much about the pain, and everyone's journey is different. It's more about you're just worn out. And then this mental fog that comes in can really bring you down when you get below 10% and you're waiting, you're going to have to start dialysis. So a dear friend of mine who runs the Northern Kentucky Tribune, Judy Claves, reached out after someone had told her what had happened. I'll leave in July. We put the message out on social media that I was going to be needing a new kidney, and there were 7 people who there were a lot of people who stepped out and said, I'm interested in being a donor. There were 7 people, Mike, who made it all the way through the process, and it's a rigorous process, only to be rejected right at the end.
Oh.
And I won't mention names because some of the people wanted to stay anonymous.
Sure.
One of them I found out because I got something in the mail with this person's name on it. And I said, what is this? And it hit me. Oh, my gosh. And it was, and these are people like school board members.
People you knew.
Oh, business partner with a administrators roundtable. My younger sister went through it without telling me, and she got rejected.
Wow.
And it was, again, a God type thing. Judy reached out to me and said, I heard you're having trouble finding a donor. I'd love to do a story on it. I said, sure. I mean, I would appreciate that. And this is and these dates will mean something to you. This was at the end of 19 going into 2020. And she did the story in December of 2019. And then, it got picked up, through social media, through Facebook and so on. And a former student of mine, middle school student, who I tried to recruit to come to Kenton County. She's a award-winning teacher. I mean, just phenomenal music teacher. I remember seeing her at a recruiting fair at Eastern when she was coming out of college. And I had her in the 8th grade. I had her 8th grade at Woodland, my first year as teacher. So she reaches out and said, I read the article. This is on Facebook. She wrote me a message in Messenger like you and I have.
Yeah.
She said, I'm going to donate my kidney to you. I'm going to save your life. I said, and I wrote back, I appreciate that. It's not that easy if you want to talk about it. So she called and she said, no, I'm doing it. And her name's Alyssa Davis is her name.
Wow.
And she said, no, I'm going to do it. I've already called Christ Hospital and I'm going to do this.
We're going to start the process.
So that was early February.
Wow, man, a student.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was
trying to hold back some tears. It was pretty, pretty inspiring stuff. There's some really good people out there still.
Oh, my goodness. And
there's good people out there still.
And the 7 people, I only know who 5 of them were. There were 2 I was never, because they won't tell you. Even if I asked.
Yeah.
They had to tell me, hey, I tried. Like, again, my younger sister, Jane, who I'm a huge fan, she had told me after the fact, she said, I'm so disappointed. I wanted to do this. So, but anyway.
Wow.
And Steve, my business partner, Steve Hayter, I know he wouldn't make me telling this. It actually turned out was something medically that he had that maybe put years on his life by going through the process. They found something.
They found something that
and took care of it. Whew. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Good people.
God behind all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, Alyssa reaches out, and what normally takes months, and I mean at least 3 months, she's a bulldog. And she was calling and saying, hey, where are we on this? What do I need to do next? And so they found out first she was a blood match, and she called me and said, I'm a match. We're going to do this. I said, there's a process. By the end of February, they'd approved her.
Whoa.
Less than a month.
That's wild.
And they allowed her to call me. And I still remember that to the day. We were both probably crying. And,
dude, I'd be bawling my eyes out. Wow.
Yeah. So
shout out, big, huge shout out, Alyssa Davis. Wow.
Oh my goodness. So she
was she positive when she called you too? Like, all right, we're gonna do this.
Oh, it was. She got a lot of Susan Cook in her. It was, we're gonna do it. There's a plan. Whatever. And
that is the coolest thing ever.
So end of February of that year, and again it's 2020. I start dialysis March 1st. They already scheduled transplant for April 4th. A week into transplant, we're hearing about this virus going around. And hospital too. I asked the dialysis team, and my doctor had already said, look, if you're traveling anywhere, put a mask on. If you get this could be
life-threatening for you.
We can't let you get this. So I remember I was in Dallas, and on the way back, on the way there, I was the only person with a mask on the way back. This is how quickly it happened. I was there 4 days. On the way back, half the plane had a mask on. That was the end of February. First week in March, I'm at dialysis. I insisted on wearing a mask. I was the only one in there, worker or patients with a mask. By the next Monday, they were checking temperatures at the door, and we were all masked up. I started keeping a journal at that time because I thought, this is probably even the unknown of that. If I got it, I'd already been told it could kill me because I have nothing to fight it. And that's the, immune systems. If back then, Mike, they were talking about the vulnerable population. I checked that off in about 20
of those boxes.
Yeah. Ooh, so it was scary.
Highly susceptible.
So, wow. Our transplant got canceled because they canceled all surgeries at that time. It turned out in a weird way to be a blessing because I stayed on. My body did not reject dialysis this time. I was healthier coming into it. I was in better shape. My kidney function, I had a port in me, so we knew it was going to be temporary where they were doing it. The people at DaVita over at Crestview Hills.
DaVita Dialysis,
Oh my gosh. I'm still in contact. One of them was a former student who was working there. Another was a daughter of, you know, the, was principal, gosh, and I'm really going to apologize. Denise was assistant principal at Twin Awful for a while. Was it Schmiotti? Denise? I know you know her. She's a Southern Kenton County girl.
I know.
But anyway, her daughter, Haley, was working there. And immediately when I sat down, she said, I know who you are. You worked with my mom. And she would check on me just those people, Candy Lowry, and just phenomenal people. I can't say enough. But anyway, during that times when we started that community group, it's like, again, what can you do? Because there's a lot of people feeling the way I feel. Afraid to go outside, afraid of the unknown. We didn't know. And that's when we started the Facebook page. It was called Putting a Face on the Vulnerable. And that exploded during that time. It gave me something to concentrate on.
Yeah.
And it was about, putting a face on this and positive news. We didn't get into the politics of all of it. And but that extra couple months on dialysis, we were the second surgery out of, during COVID, June 2nd that year. And this is crazy. So I struggled after the first one. Now I'm on 5 milligrams of prednisone a day. It's a good kidney match. I was the first telemed patient that had been done through the Kidney and Hypertension Center. It was all brand new then, where your doctor talks to you on your phone rather than have to come in. Because I complained about, look, if I'm sitting here waiting 3 hours, there's people around here, I could get COVID. And Dr. Kramer said, yeah, you could. He said, so you want to try this? I've not seen him in person. That was June of 2020. I just reminded him of this when we were talking a couple of weeks ago. I said, do you know I've still not been back there to see you in person in 5 years? Because my blood work has been that good. My kidney function is normal today. It's probably as good as yours.
Wow.
Blood pressure is good. But it is still, I control what I can control. I'm 5 years, just celebrated 5 years in June. I still weigh every morning. I take my blood pressure every morning. I wear a sugar monitor because if there's something cropping up, I want him to know about it. So he's on my team.
Amazing.
He's the captain of my team.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm very blessed. Very blessed. And I get out and walk and.
Oh yeah, Tim's very active. That's what it's incredible to encounter 2 kidney transplants and experience everything you have, still have the mindset that you do. But that's the thing with prolonging things, like we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we are given a specific set of guidelines, and if you don't necessarily follow this, my life's going to be cut shorter. That's on me. And we had just talked about how time is more valuable than anything
That's right.
that we can encounter, not money.
That's right.
We don't get the time back, and we can only live presently. And man, your story is incredible. I love the fact that you have just this dog mindset too. Let's go, high energy. That's how I am well. I'm intense as well. Like when it gets to like my coaching and everything, I just am.
Yeah. Passionate.
I am. I love it because that's a passionate, coach hard. And then you always bring it full circle and love on them harder.
That's right.
Then you literally watch the growth. I'm numbers, results oriented as well. And there's nothing more exciting than what you've done with all of these students and then what you've encountered a little bit later in life to kind of flip your perspective as well.
Yeah.
It's
why I love what you're doing because there are, and I'll speak to the male population. The whole world, the word vulnerable, is seen by a lot of people to be a weakness, and it's the opposite of that. And I think that's more true in the male ego and the male world, that if you show vulnerability, you're weak, and that's to me one of the biggest strengths that somebody can have. And I got a long way to go on that journey. There are certain things it's hard for me to open up about. My parents divorced when I was young, and so on. I don't dwell on it, and I've been in therapy a couple times to help me see through things. And when I was younger, that was me seeking it out. One time was right after I was diagnosed, when I was going to be a superintendent. I felt like I needed someone just to go in and.
100%.
Back then, though, I didn't want to talk about that with anybody. I didn't even want to come home and talk to my wife about it, because it was what was ingrained in me. And that, to me, is probably the biggest change in the last 16 years, is that none of us are perfect, and none of us have all the answers. And seeking help when you need it is one of the biggest strengths that people can show. I've done it. You've done it.
Yep.
And we need more people, when instead of struggling in silence or struggling on their own, or no matter what it is, to be able to have the strength to reach out. And I've had so many people do that for me in ways that they don't even know, that I want to be able, to do that for other folks now at this point in life. It's back to what we were talking about with the gift of time. I took on a role a couple of years ago to be a CEO of a startup. I loved it and thought I'd do it 5 to 7 years. As I'm reminded by Greg Fisher, he said, I thought you were going to do this 5 to 7 years. My promise to my wife and to that board when I took this over was, as long as it didn't impact my health. But I did. This is, again, where I'm not proud of this. I poured everything into it and wasn't drinking my water probably like I needed to, and had some, any job like that's going to have stress.
Sure.
Had a phenomenal board, just great people. And I went to them. I went to Jim Matruba and to Greg Fisher and said, I'm afraid this is impacting my kidney. And I had a big drop in kidney function over 2 months. And instead of them saying, well, you promised us, it was, what can we do? And for Jim, rest his soul, Dr. Matruba said, this is the most important thing you've got going. You got to take care of yourself. We'll deal with everything else. Mm-hmm. And they let me set a timeline out and help them pick my successor. So that grace that they showed me, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I have to do, because they had invested in me. Yeah. And then to turn around. But the way they handled that taught me a lot about humanity and about how you treat someone who is coming to you being vulnerable, mm-hmm. and opening up, and it's about grace, seeking to understand rather than either questioning or feeling like, because I already had enough guilt.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you're already feeling with enough guilt.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think
guilt, shame, remorse, all that stuff.
So, again, what I try to do now in life is, there's a new nonprofit that started over the last few years called Off the List, mm-hmm. local group. Darcy Gibson is a founder of that because her dad went through a transplant, and she's connecting with people over the country. Only 3 years in, and that's why you see me putting out, posts about a 14-year-old in Denver needing a kidney, or because it takes a community to be able to. That's what Judy Claves did for me. Had she not written that article, Alyssa would have never known.
I know.
So it's that type of, social media gets and rightfully so, a whole lot of negative blame for things. I just think there's a huge segment of it that has opened up to a lot of positivity.
Absolutely.
And you're a good example of that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I see the same thing, Tim. I really do. Let me get ready to wrap up, because do you mind if I invite you back too?
I'd love it.
Because I'd love to have you come back, because I do a lot of mental stuff a lot of mental performance, resiliency, mental toughness, strategy type things. I like to really do business and business conversations. And I'd love to have you back just because there's so much still more to your story, even afterwards, because I wanted to dive more too into your leadership qualities today, as everything is post. But we'll get into that on another one too, because we've cranked out a lot of good stuff here.
Good.
Man. It's amazing. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing what you shared today, because being vulnerable is a superpower. It takes more courage, than anything. And that's what I want to do, is flip these perspectives by having these kind of conversations and then showing what you can do with the controllables.
Yep.
What you can do with things yourself outside of what you rely on with faith.
Yes.
And watching you do that has inspired me, because it's been like telling me, you know what, man, I did start my stuff later in life, in my opinion, but I can have energy forever and go and carry myself and be a great listener and sit down and have a genuine business meeting that's just a relationship thing. I want that.
Yeah.
As I get another 20 years of my life, or 30 years. So thank you. I mean, you really you put this off when we were in Covington the other day. The way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, and you introduced me to multiple people, and the way you carry yourself on social media. That's who you really are.
Thanks.
And I admire that, because that's who I am as a human being. I'm an extrovert, and I love people.
Yeah.
I love connecting people. I love helping people, whatever it is, whether it's business or alcohol addiction recovery, mental health stuff. Like, I just love that. And I'm a coach at heart.
Yeah.
I'm a coach by living now and certified. So it's like, I bring these coaches on. Here you are. You're a coach too, dude. Like, I thought you were just a superintendent there for a while. And now I'm a numbers guy, and you gave me those numbers. And now I'm like, wow, I love that. I eat that stuff up. Because earlier I was going to even ask you a question about, like, what was the KPI on some of those kids on the first 3 months? How did you measure results on that necessarily in the short term? But we're going to go over all that stuff in another episode. But I love you like crazy, man.
I love you too.
I really do.
And again, you could be doing anything. The fact that you're choosing to do this and the ripple effect, if it helps one person, it's worth it. But you're helping a whole bunch of people.
Oh, thank you.
And I encourage people to follow this, to listen. I went back and listened to some episodes. Of course, I had to listen to the Steiner episode.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed that.
Dude, I learned so much in that episode myself.
And he's a great guy.
Amazing guy. Yeah. Changed my focal flip. He even changed my perspective.
Yeah. I'd get me on here with Humphrey sometime, even if we have to Zoom him in. Because I've got all kinds of Scott Humphrey stories.
Let's just tease him with like 2 straight days of golf.
There you go.
We'll get him in town. We'll cover his golf, and then that would be fantastic.
Wouldn't it be fun?
I would love it.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I would have a field day with that.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, you can go to my website. You can go to Instagram. We got YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We are in season 2. Tim's episode is going to be airing very, very soon. You guys are going to love some of the content that we have. We have a ton of new stuff coming out, dabbling in with some other coaches. We've got some professional athletes that are going to be sneaking on here a little bit. We got some little kids that are going to be coming on here a little bit. And we're going to show you what it's like to kind of have those conversations, communications, relationships with these kids, kind of like what Tim has explained in this episode about how we can develop them, how we can pull that out of them, and then create like that ambassador style of leaders, that attraction rather than promotion that ends up getting results.
That's right.
And I absolutely love that. So anything that you ever need with your nonprofits, your companies, your family, let me know. I would love to help.
Same way.
Because I 100% believe in everything that you do. And
appreciate that.
Pure heart, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Love you.
Love you.
We're out, y'all.
So guys, you should like and subscribe and like hit that
Okay,
I can't get it.
okay.
I'm not used to this.
Hey guys, subscribe to my dad's video and Just like the bell.
Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that bell.
And stay tuned. Love y'all.
100%. Love y'all. We're out.
I love that.